Peace, peace. I've been sitting here and we are live. Appreciate everyone for staying with us today through our second day of Pan African Unity or Parish Conference, the abolition of neo-colonialism. I hope everyone was able to have a powerful and informative day, that you were able to receive some information that you can take with you. And apply in your community. One of the things that is very important when it comes to bringing about revolutionary change is not just to talk about the problems that are taking place within society, the contradictions, to sit around and theorize about those issues. The most important part of it all is to put that into action, the application of those theories to bring about the change. And so, again, appreciate you all sticking in, with us, but it's not over yet. Our keynote speaker is going to be coming to the stage in a few minutes. But until we have him with us, General Ezekiel Zabanyana of former general of ZANU-PF, just want to let you know that there's still another day of conversation to be had tomorrow. That will be our last day. So, continue to stick in with us. Today was a powerful day. We started off with Baba Mukasa, Dada Ricks. I thought that was the highlight, at least for me, of today. I was able to see a whole lot of other powerful presentations, but to be able to see an historical figures such as Baba Mukasa, Dada Ricks, that was, I'm going to say, like, that had to be the highlight for me. This is someone who I, read about in the history books, his work, as well as, others that were involved in SNCC, really inspired me to want to be an organizer and to be a part of this work. But there were also just several powerful discussions. At least I got to see Dr. Gabriel Selassie. I was able to jump into that session and his discussion about African religions, freedom, or African religious bondage. I thought that was a powerful discussion. Was able to see Dr. Juma Ndongo Faye talking about understanding neo-colonialism. And some of the important messages that I was getting from a lot of these discussions is the necessity of organizations, Pan-African organizations, to get together to do this work. The Pan-African Federation Movement, who recently had a presentation, and in their presentation, they were covering was it community? Well, there was Nefta Freeman was talking about community control and building transitional power for power. But the particular presentation, I don't see it right now, but Ijiwe, I know it was Ijiwe and Dr. Aisha and Nemo, who had a panel discussion talking about the importance of Pan-African unity. And that was another powerful panel and discussion that took place. But the theme overall is Pan-African organizations like really coming together and bringing about the necessary change and understanding the urgency. There was a lot of talk about urgency and coming out of this conference and doing the work. So anyone who's not involved in an organization, making sure that you get involved in a organization, right? Kwame Ture used to say that all the time, like, get organized. We have to get organized. If you're not a part of an org, look and see who's doing the work. There were several organizations that presented today. Reach out to them. They gave out their information, as well as if you are a part of an organization, who are you working with? If you're a part of a Pan-African organization and you're not aligning yourself with other organizations to bring about change, then hopefully, this conference had inspired you to do something different once you get out of here. So, with that being said, this is the 100-year anniversary of Marcus Garvey's demand to the UN to keep their hands off of Ethiopia. And just to speak on Garvey, since this is the 100-year anniversary, I think it is important to understand the importance of Garvey and what he did, because before Garvey, Africans in the diaspora uh, did identify themselves as African. There was a history of Africans looking to unite themselves back to the continent. There were, a history of transnational relationships on a small scale. But Garvey did something I think that wasn't seen prior to that, which is the unification, the attempt to unify on a large scale the diaspora with the continent. And we were seeing this on a large scale. I think like prior to that, there was this movement to consolidate. Africans were definitely looking to consolidate and create superstructures prior to European intervention. But I think like at the centuries of colonialism and slavery, after this interruption that took place by Europeans, Garvey, came in the 20th century, and he attempted to get Africans to identify themselves not just by their ethnicity, not just by their country, but to identify themselves with the larger African community and to create a superstructure with a united Africa, United States of Africa. And Garvey's work still inspires many of us today. And that's hence the reason, part of the reason for this conference is because of the work that Garvey, as well as others who came, before and after did. So, I just want to recognize Garvey and speak about Garvey a little more, if that's okay. And again, like this is 100 years later after Garvey had went to the League of Nations. If I said the UN earlier, it was the League of Nations at that time. And thinking about this conference really quick before I move in more into Garvey, thinking about what we were able to achieve here with this particular conference, and going back to the first Pan-African conference that was organized, and thinking about the work that they had to do as they, had to travel to London and meet in person, and how far we have come with the technology to be able to have people on the continent. We had people from Venezuela. I've seen people from Argentina in the chat. People here in the States. We have Africans in Europe. All of these Africans who are able to be a part of this conference, and in the different states from the comfort of their offices or homes. But it is important, though, that as we move forward, that we find a way to have in-person meetings, which was mentioned earlier, as we move forward and come up with ideas to bring about the transformation that's needed in the society. Because it's one thing when we're dealing with this technology, we know that it can easily be infiltrated. So there's certain things that we don't want to discuss when we're meeting virtually. So again, just like going back to Garvey and speaking about Garvey's impact on the Pan-African movement, one of Garvey's quotes, Garvey said, "The history of a movement, the history of a nation, the history of a race is the guidepost of that movement's destiny, that nation's destiny, that race's destiny." And so, Garvey understood the importance of history. Okay. Garvey understood the importance of history in creating a movement, and the right type of history, because one of the things that colonialism did and slavery did is that it rewrote our history. And so even today, you have people who are detaching themselves from Africa and calling themselves American descendants of slavery, right? And I don't want to focus on them, but I just sort of want to use that as an example of how miseducation and indoctrination can impact even the way that we identify ourselves, and where we detach ourselves from such a rich history here in the diaspora, particularly in the United States. But Garvey, he understood the importance of knowing the achievements of African people, knowing the achievements, the things that we have accomplished, and moving forward, using that as a foundation, because every people has a history to unite themselves. You can go back, every group, every ethnic group, every nation has a story, has a tradition that shows the importance of why they should be working together. Right. And, and part of our history goes all the way back to the achievements of Mali and Ghana, and the great Zimbabwe. But even our history in the Western Hemisphere, Africans' history in the Western Hemisphere has been one of resistance. Right. It's not a history. Yes, we have been enslaved. We have been colonized. But the other part of that enslavement and colonization has been the resistance to these institutions. And we have been, partially successful, but we're still a part of the struggle to liberate ourselves. And hence, Garvey comes in the 20th century to developing a philosophy and an idea to help us do that. Garvey, who was born in Jamaica, born in the diaspora in 1887, influenced by other Africans in the diaspora. Him being influenced by Booker T. Washington in the States, it just shows the connection that Africans and the understanding of Africans in the diaspora and on the continent had, even before there was a label called Pan-African, understanding that there was a common struggle that we had, no matter if we was in the United States, if we were in Jamaica, Haiti, or on the continent of Africa. And so Marcus Garvey, after traveling to Costa Rica, after traveling to Panama, and of course, growing up in Jamaica, one thing that he saw was that Africans were being exploited and oppressed in these different areas, that their labor, that the fruits of their labor were not benefiting the workers. The fruits of their labor were benefiting the parasite, the European parasite in this parasitic system, the building up of a system that generates its wealth off of the exploitation and oppression of the African working class. And so, with that being said, so am I going into? I'm sorry, just a little confusion. Am I going into the bio? I see you mentioning my name. All right. Okay. So our keynote speaker is here, and you see, I was a filler. I was going to go into Garvey and his importance, but our keynote is here, and so I want to introduce him, and hopefully, I spark your interest to do some more research on Garvey and his importance and impact on our movement. So again, we have a seasoned, hardcore, and highly trained Zalin freedom fighter under the invincible military wing of ZANU. He joined the Revolutionary Armed Struggle in 1975 after training as a teacher at Morgenstern Teachers College. He fought against the Rhodesian forces, employing all conceivable guerrilla tactics such as ambushes, landmines, surprise attacks on small enemy groups, and pounding of bases such as Rudu or RUDA, rest camps, spectacular activities of hunting the Rhodesian forces, which occurred in Nyanga or Mandaya Day. So, with that being said, we have our keynote speaker, which, okay, here you go. All right. I didn't see you in the waiting room, so that was probably
okay
an issue on my part. That's why I was going on for so long. But thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
So we have General. I know it says retired, but I'm once a general, always a general. So I can't say that you're retired. General Ezekiel Zabanyana is here to speak with you all. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. If I can Say, are you hearing me so that I might start in earnest? Yes.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you clearly.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. May I take this opportunity to thank you, the esteemed intellectuals, those from the university, MSU, for inviting me in my capacity as one of the lecturers at Chitepo School of Ideology, so that I can give you a presentation from our perspective of Africa-USA relations. May I assure you that we are not going to disappoint you. Anyone who has cared to follow the positive impact of Chitepo School of Ideology would agree with me that we have lived to the expectations of our well-spelled vision to be the hub of intellectual party ideology excellence in the economic development of Zimbabwe as a sovereign state and prepare participants to lead future economic development, both in the party and government. As we continue to decolonize the mind, we are judiciously guided by the sacrosanct core values of patriotism, professionalism, integrity, gender sensitivity, and teamwork as a reputable school of ideology. Africa-USA relation is obviously guided by its foreign policy, which USA projects throughout the world, namely in this posture. We understand from the historical perspective that USA foreign policy was guided by the idea that USA should observe political isolation from European powers during the peacetime and maintain strict neutrality during periods of war. USA, as we know, has four main goals in its foreign policy. That is, firstly, protection of USA and its citizens. Secondly, assurance of maintaining access to international resources and markets. Preservation of one of the most important things in this world called balance of power. The age of global neoliberalism was viewed as the mankind's ideological evolution endgame, pitted obviously against communism and possibly its defeat. As it relates to Africa, USA still stubbornly deceives itself as amongst the most powerful countries in the world by the adoption of the total spectrum dominance or superiority directed towards economic, political, and cultural aspects. Total or full spectrum dominance, also known as full spectrum superiority, is the military entity's achievement of control over all dimensions of battle space and effective possession of an overwhelming diversity of resources in such areas, namely as terrestrial, aerial, maritime, subterranean, extraterrestrial, psychological, bio or cyber technological warfare, and also inclusive of electromagnetic spectrum and information warfare space. When we now talk in terms of national interests, as one of the determinants of United States of America's foreign policy globally, also inclusive of Africa. Their national interests are taken as sacrosanct. If you want to be theological, as holy and non-debatable, non-negotiable, non-transferable, and it can be considered as part and parcel of their national power. National interest, as we are aware, for each and every nation state is the best for that particular country. The most famous quote of John Bolton on national interest is, "Everybody pursue their national interest. The only one who gets blamed for it is the United States, being part and parcel of justification for whatever they are going to be doing, whether it is right or wrong. But it will be justified by this issue of national states interest." The most important thing for the United States of America when it built up relations is its national interest, which is given in the following, in some form of order of importance. Protection of human rights, obviously, a lot of hypocrisy and advancement of its American values and policies. All these can be summed up in the following as embracing security, property, and the creation of a better world, as they would want to claim that they want to create a better world. My analysis of relations is coming at a time when United States of America has the following characteristics. Firstly, paradox of American power, where we have ambiguities and complexities of American power and influence, as is succinctly explained by Joseph S. Nye, who is the Dean of the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. Equally, not to be outdone, one of my famous professors that taught me, Professor Barry Buzain, who is in the UK, is a reputable international relations and strategic studies scholar, put it vehemently or robustly that states that presently there are no more superpowers. Where another guru in international relations, Professor A. Archer, who is at Washington, D.C., and a scholar of reputation, states categorically that there is the end of American world order. It has lost the ability to shape world order during its time of superpower dominance, during the time of unipolarity, and during the time when it was exercising world bully and policeman status. Now it is considered one of the members or actors, including emerging powers, which is decentered but interdependent in the multipolar world as we now have it. American Western liberal democracy is in the wane, whilst its universalization, as it was put by one of the famous professors, Francis Fukuyama, that it has reached the apex and is now declining. In that book, which most scholars would know as The End of History and The Last Man. National interests will then now know them as classified under vital interest for the United States of America whenever there is that foreign policy crafting, extremely important interest or important interest, or less important interest or secondary interest. Other classifications are as follows. United States classifies its interest whenever it wants to do anything throughout the world, inclusive of Africa, that the interests are vital, important, or peripheral. Major competitors of the United States of America in Africa obviously are now, as we talk, Russia, which has some strategic alliances with a number of countries, inclusive of my country, Zimbabwe. China, which has got a comprehensive strategic alliance with a number of countries, including my country, Zimbabwe, as well as India. How has United States of America treated Africa? Not that there has been clear love and hate relations. Firstly, it has treated the global world. USA wanted to Americanize Africa as they believe in some superior political culture. This also explains what is taking place in Ukraine, where they want to impose their American way of doing things, their American way of democracy, their American way of culture in a country which also has its culture. They believe in exceptionalism or bordering on what we term might is right. And they are the messiahs who can extricate nations from abject poverty or from any form of problems. And they also are treating Africa through one of their most famous doctrine, which is the Bush doctrine of preemption. They believe in the doctrine of preemption, which was authored by Bush or during the time of Bush, or one which also embraced the anticipatory self-defense as a form of defense under Article 51. They want to fight wars outside their American hemisphere, as was pronounced by the Monroe Doctrine, e.g., wars that they fought in Libya, wars in Somalia. They believe that if they preemptively hit whatever they call their adversary or enemy, then they will limit instances of having wars within the American hemisphere. Reagan, under responsibility to protect, we must note that they had to hit Libya, and firstly, when Reagan was there, and secondly, under the intervention of responsibility to protect, where they ultimately ousted Muammar Gaddafi. And they have also made it a battlefield of disinformation and misinformation. Serious campaigns through information warfare to demonize Chinese investment in Africa, e.g., the developments that have been done in Zambia during the Lungu's reign, developments that have been done here in Zimbabwe, in my country. All those were demonized through misinformation and disinformation, so that people would prefer Western assistance or Western foreign direct investment. This also includes intimidatory threats against those countries aligned to Russia and China. There is potential punitive action for failing to support United States of America in this Ukraine conflict. Africa has also been the recipient of pivotal states. USA has created strategic military bases in the form of pivotal states in order to diplomatically arm twist any country that fails to comply with its policies. These are strategically placed countries which they can launch or reach any place on earth, in particular again in Africa, for the purpose of enforcing peace and stability in the manner in which they believe American peace is, or American democracy is. If we can talk of the best country that has exercised unilateralism, and the United States of America is going to come first. USA has taken unilateral action without consultation and agreements with the United Nations, even without Security Council resolution. This has given rise to some insecurity in a number of countries, fear in a number of countries. They do this through either non-governmental organizations, through some form of invasions, multiplicity of actors in the invasion sphere, some form of intrusion, some form of social and cultural imperialism to act American, dance American, speak American, all that. That's part and parcel of the influence that they would want to give to Africa. Also, the anti-Soviet proxy wars have been fought in Africa. USA became friendly to anti-Soviet insurgents, e.g. in Angola, Mozambique, DRC, and to some extent a number of countries north of Africa, where they have made Africa to be some fragile or some country which cannot be seen to be respected. And a number of areas have taken root in Africa through United States of America, using Africa as a laboratory or a laboratory for experiments, using it as some form of guinea pigs, testing ground for new weapons. They don't mind whatever happens to the Africans when they kill each other, as long as they are not Americans. Dumping toxic matter in some areas which might be hazardous, dumping expired medicine in the form of humanitarian assistance, and treated as second-class citizens. That is, we as Africans. One area which is very much of concern to my country is the unilateral imposition of illegal sanctions against member states. Sanctions that have not been approved by the United States of America, United Nations. In our case, is the ZIDERA, which is given as a way of alleviating the plight of Africans in Zimbabwe. What hypocrisy. Former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan had this to say about sanctions. Sanctions remain a blunt instrument which hurt large number of people who are not the primary targets. Very much of an unguided missile. America has caused the irreparable damage to the continent, where sanctions have been imposed as a form of, firstly, as the way it was put by the Russians, blunted aggression, naked aggression against a member state. In our case, it has been that violation of our territorial integrity and sovereignty. And this is the same thing that is happening to Russia. Causes regime change. If then sanctions are imposed and the people revolt against that particular government, then puppets are created, traitors are created, or political quislings are created. And this then gives us a state that is not stable and that is not nationalistic and that is not pursuing its own destiny as the legitimate people of that country would have desired. Form of new colonialism. It is again a form of collective punishment. It is illegitimate, those sanctions which have been passed against the member states. A number of member states have been sanctioned, like Sudan. Punitive, uncivilized way of dealing with things, and at the end of the day, they are destructive. They are also retrogressive in action and in earnest, unethical, and tantamount to moral aggression, and something certainly of shocking magnitude. Certainly in the world of diplomacy, where people have to sit down together and discuss, it becomes very much undiplomatic. And at the end of the day, sanctions which have been imposed to a number of countries, inclusive of my country, Zimbabwe, has the tendency to obliterate any traces of progressive revolutionary parties. The aim is to get rid of those liberation or revolutionary parties that fought long, hard, harrowing wars of the liberation struggle and replaced them by puppets and quislings. Why is it that sanctions are undiplomatic? A civilized way to go through is to go through the United Nations in the form of multilateralism as opposed to unilateralism in a bid to solve some conflicts, contradictions, or disputes through the following approaches: in the legal, political, and the diplomacy, which entails the following actions. This, I'm quoting one of the doctors, Dr. Murguira, who is one of the lecturers at the University of Zimbabwe, who says the proper civilized way of handling this is the use of United Nations means, where you then have facilitation, arbitration, inquiry, mediation, conciliation, and judicial judgment. USA has also done a lot of harm in as far as some its relations with African countries. Firstly, it has designated or given appellations, statuses that are derogatory, that are demeaning to a nation state or to a sovereign state, solely at certain times because it's in Africa. They have labeled states to be rogue states. They've also made such appellations to certain states as pariah states. They have also labeled the states or given them some designation as outpost of tyranny, as in our case, Zimbabwe was once termed the outpost of tyranny by Condoleezza Rice. Dictatorial state, anywhere where some leader in Africa is in full control of his territorial integrity or the legitimacy he is given or she is given by his people, they term that person dictator, tyrannical. At a certain time, the access of evil. And certain times, they would then term that some failed state. This is exactly what we might want to know about our country, our Africa, vis-a-vis relations between Africa and the United States of America. There is nothing wrong under sanctions to abide or comply with Article 33 of the United Nations Charter. Very much civilized, rather than taking unilateral action and adopting what we term denialism. That is a narrative of which polarizes, which is destructive, which is divisive and counterproductive when people state that sanctions are targeted against individuals. Yet, those are the people who are not suffering under sanctions. The common person who will be suffering under sanctions, under that form of aggression. We now have contestation within Africa, where the Chinese are in, where the Russians are in. So competition between among countries like the United States of America, Russia, and China in ensuring that they take care of African problems is there. And as I did make mention of the fact that disinformation and misinformation is rife, people are putting it to us in Africa that China is on the verge of collapse, and that China is no longer going to have good proper control in Africa. Yet, China's civilization, cynic, Confucian, Chinese civilization has affected a lot of developmental projects in Zimbabwe. And the delusion that China is going to be a gentle state, which is going to rise and have lots of wealth, globalization, affected, and the political integration, and make it a gentle state, might not be the right way of looking at the truth in as far as Africa is concerned, because Africa has seen the very people who are there to assist it. We are aware that the United States of America is calling certain Africans to their summit. And this particular summit is going to be discriminatory. Certain African leaders are not going to be called because they don't dance to the tune or to the whims of American influence. And as such, it becomes very much preferable for a number of countries to look east and ensure that they've got their assistance, their foreign direct assistance, you see, from Africa, from China, in the form of a global security initiative or a global development initiative, which China is championing with ease. Now, in as far as China is concerned, we are looking at having more of Chinese assistance as it now, you see, as opposed to United States of America's assistance. Once upon a time, we were looked down during the Trump era, where countries were not invited by Trump to sit and discuss issues. In this case, Africa, I think, is becoming more and more clever. If there is anything that you might want clarification because of the time factor, I would be very happy and very glad to take care of such question. I am so enthused, if not amused, by this opportunity which you have given us, so that from Chitepo School of Ideology, we have tried our level best to put across issues that affect Africa, issues that are always giving problems to Africa, and why certain relations is not at its best, and how we expect to be more friendly with any other country that wants to be friendly to us. We are aware Africa has got a lot of resources, and this is one of the factors that is pushing or attracting a number of countries to come and invest in Africa, United States of America included. So this contestation or competition is going to grow, and the one with a better, sustainable, competitive advantage will certainly endear Africans who are now more cleverer than they were when they were taken to United States of America as slaves. This time they are aware that we should be pursuing our own destiny in the best possible way. Thank you so much for rendering undivided attention to my speech or presentation.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that presentation and highlighting the serious contradiction that exists between the United States and imperial United States in Zimbabwe, because that, really is a reflection of what's taking place over the entire continent. So I want to appreciate you, highlighting what is going on with the sanctions, what is going on with the United States undermining the economy and the politics of Zimbabwe. And we definitely, Africans in the diaspora, I'm in the belly of the beast. of the United States. And so it is part of my work to make sure that I bring this awareness to the Africans that are here, so we can do more work to help our comrades, our brothers and sisters on the continent. So I just want to take a few questions from the audience. Give me one second. Do we have any questions? First, I should ask. Do we have any questions? And I guess that until I receive some questions, I guess one question that I would have in regards, because you gave a lot of history talking about the particular policies of the United States. Is there any particular policy that the United States has now that so those who are in the United States, Africans in the United States, should be aware of, so that we can begin to spread information and get the word out in regards to what the U.S. is doing, and so we can help get their hands off of Zimbabwe? Is there some things that you can sort of highlight and let us know what the U.S. is involved in specifically?
Thank you so much for that. A very good question. Presently, sanctions have been imposed upon Zimbabwe on claims, false claims, hypocritical claims that Zimbabwe was not pursuing human rights. Equally the same, this issue was born out of us acquiring or reclaiming our land back, the land that was stolen from our forefathers. When we fought the revolutionary armed struggle, the war Chimrenga, it was meant to claim land from our forefathers. And the UK, United Kingdom, after having made all reasonable attempts to protect its kith and kin in Zimbabwe, then had to tell EU, European Union, as well as the United States of America, to collectively punish Zimbabwe. We are aware that the UK has got what we term special relationship with the United States of America. Every time United States of America meets UK leadership, they talk about their special relationship. This is where they sold this idea that these people have taken back their land. We must punish them. Unfortunately, land remains in the hands of the indigenous people, the Africans, and we are not going to cede it back. And what we have done is to comply with a number of civilized way of doing things, like the democracy, good elections, no violence, and wooing investors who want to invest in Zimbabwe. So these are issues which we can say our fellow brothers who are in the diaspora can take advantage of certain investment climate, which is very conducive. The Chinese are doing it. They've invested massive amounts of dollars here in Zimbabwe. The British themselves are also trying to woo us to allow them to come and invest. And I think it was going to be more advantageous for our fellow African brothers to take advantage of such investment opportunities. Our president, His Excellency, President Edi Mnangagwa, puts it clearly that Zimbabwe is open for business, and he means it. So everything is there, ready. Anyone who comes, we've all killed all these bureaucratic tendencies that used to be there, where when one wants to invest, you take so many days. But that has been sorted out due to the Second Republic, that is bringing a conducive environment for investment. Thank you.
Thank you, Asante Sana, for answering that question. Have another question in the chat from one of the speakers, because you spoke about China and building trade relations with China, as opposed to the U.S., and sort of just using the leverage that y'all have to be able to work with other people who are competing to do business with Zimbabwe. Question in the chat is: are you concerned with China taking a more adversarial or imperialist position towards Africa down the road?
Thank you so much. That's a very good question. It's an area where a number of people have tried to show concern and say that there is going to be some second colonization or imperial related domination, you see, by China as it is coming to have massive investment in Africa. The contrary is true, that China is not in any way intruding into the territorial integrity of our nation state, or in our case. It is respecting our sovereignty. Whenever they are sitting down to draft deals, they take note of the fact that they are doing it with another sovereign state in the United Nations status, an equal state. So that respect that China gives to us is most welcome, and we have absolutely no fear. China has done a lot to uplift us from the economic doldrums. First thing, it was the support it gave during the revolutionary armed struggle. It gave us a lot of moral, political, as well as material support in order to dislodge the imperialist or colonialist government which was there under Ian Douglas Smith for the case of Zimbabwe, and even in other countries. So we have absolutely not even an infinitesimal fear of some sort, you see, that we might want to entertain and say possibly China is not going to help us and it might want to dominate us. There is nothing like that.
Okay, thank you. There's another question. Are you working with ADDI on investment opportunities?
Yes, we are certainly working with ACBI for investment opportunities, and we are so open, as my leader has put it across. Zimbabwe is open for business, and any area of mutual understanding or mutual concern is ironed out in whatever discussions that are. So certainly we are, and we are keen to open up for more and more business with them.
All right, I have another one for you.
Yes.
Bring it on, right? Is there a qualitative difference between a kinder imperialist, China or Russia, and a mean imperialist, UK, France, USA? Did you understand that question?
I think you might want to repeat it.
Yeah.
You say mean.
Yeah. So, is there a qualitative difference between like a nice imperialist and a, mean or a not so nice imperialist? Like, so a nice imperialist like China or Russia, is there a difference between them and a more like aggressive and meaner imperialist, such as UK, France, and United States?
Obviously, the difference is there. In our case, the nomenclature, the manner in which we say for Russia, there is no way we can in any way infer or imply and look at them as some form of imperialists, because for a long time, that's Russia and China have been assisting us in whatever way, both politically, economically, and as I did mention, during the revolutionary armed struggle, they stood by us. When some Western countries wanted to invade our country, a Security Council resolution was put across. These are the countries that stood by us and said, what you are doing is not in accordance with international law. And there is no way we can have the temerity or audacity to term them imperialist in some way. To us, we look again at the word imperialist as denoting some oppressive or repressive connotations. But as it now, we look at them as friends who are ready to give us a helping hand, who listen to us, who advise us. Like I say with China, we've got a comprehensive strategic alliance with them on an equal basis, despite the fact that we may not have as much money as China, but they consider our territorial integrity and sovereignty as a state which is in existence. And moreover, I for one would want to say, as China, we have a lot to learn from it, you see, from the nation state concept, which IR has, and from the civilized state concept, which is given through the Confucian way of doing things. I, for one, have been at a Chinese university, and I learned a lot, and I discovered that they are not joking. They would want to do things in the best way, and they are open, very transparent to us, whilst the others seem not to be. And at certain times, they are supporting puppets who want to overthrow us and bring us back into that neo-colonialist subjugation. Given the two, we wouldn't choose that.
Thank you for that answer. And yeah, if anyone has any other questions, definitely raise that. I guess I have another question myself.
Yes, welcome. You're welcomed.
Just the how are you seeing, what are you well, I know you're optimistic about the future of Africa, right? But in regards to the progress that has been made, because there has been the COVID-19, and I know that has hurt a lot of economies. Are you optimistic about African unity, working together with other African countries to bring forth the idea of Pan-Africanism that many of us are, struggling and fighting for on the continent and the diaspora? Because, I know that there's a struggle to get different African leaders to come together and to, agree on an economic policy, a way forward, or political policy. So how much is it been a struggle to really bring Pan-Africanism on the continent? And do you see a bright future for Pan-Africanism on the continent of Africa, despite the economic troubles and so forth?
Thank you so much for the question. That's a very good one. Forward-looking, futuristic, and looking at things in the brighter side of things. Yes, we are very optimistic about African unity. We are very optimistic about the progress in future, as we are now opening up to some progressive countries who want to assist us and extricate us from our troubled continent. In particular areas that relates to security. You are aware that there is nothing that can ever happen without peace and tranquility. And the African continent is doing its very best to ensure that the areas where there are conflicts are taken care of in the most professional way, so that the economic development takes root. Optimism by most African states also is shown through a number of regional arrangements, you see. Like in our case, we've got SADC, we've got this ECOWAS, where we have our capacity to resolve some contradictions or certain problems that arise either through negotiations. In this case, we have some insurgents in Mozambique where SADC has pooled its resources, military-wise, economic-wise, in order to eradicate that scourge. So that spirit of unity, an active bond of aspirants sharing in common given political beliefs is there in Africa. And the optimism to us is certainly perpetual. Like one general puts it, perpetual optimism is an indispensable force multiplier. In Africa, we have it.
Okay, thank you for your answer. You had something earlier. You talked about investing in Zimbabwe. Is there anything in particular, like if you were to have a message for the Africans in the diaspora in regards to how to invest in Zimbabwe? Is there some advice, direction that you can give Africans in the diaspora saying, hey, you guys should be doing this in Zimbabwe, investing in this, in this industry or in this way? Is there something that you would advise them to do?
Yes, I would, without any hesitation, advise them to do. I said, my president, His Excellency, Dr. Emerson Mnangagwa, put it so clearly that Zimbabwe is open for business. And he means it as it is. It is open either from west or east. But we will be very happy to have our brothers coming to invest in Zimbabwe in as far as infrastructure development, in as far as science and technology or certain innovations is in science and technology, energy. In areas of agriculture, we are one of the best agricultural countries in Africa. The soil is good, the weather is good. There is a lot of peace and tranquility in Zimbabwe. If we were able to export it elsewhere, we would earn a lot of foreign currency. Peace and tranquility. Very professional security forces who keep peace and tranquility in Zimbabwe. So that's an ideal place for investment. I've talked about agriculture, energy, infrastructure, and we also have the lot that you can work with, the indigenous people that you can work with, highly educated. We are the second best educated people in the continent of Africa, second from Tunisia. And you'll have that manpower resource. You'll not have any problem in getting local manpower resources to assist or to have joint venture or a partnership with them. So that environment is highly conducive, and you would be happy to invest in Zimbabwe and have the ROI, return on investment, within the shortest possible time. We have our economic related problems here and there, but we are sure to succeed in fighting them.
Again, thank you for your answer. I believe that there aren't any more questions. I think I was blessed to have the final question for you.
Yes.
I want to appreciate you. I want to appreciate you being here and presenting and informing our listeners. This is going to be for prosperity. So what we are doing today is going to help inform and educate those people who come behind us. So again, thank you for being able to be a part of this in Zimbabwe. On the other side, you know, you're on one side of the ocean, I'm on the other side of the ocean, but we're able to come together and make this happen. So, you know, I love that. So this is day 2, and we're coming to a conclusion of day 2, but we have one more day of this conference. And so, you know, I want to encourage everyone to come back and be with us tomorrow. So again, this concludes our second day. And until tomorrow, you know, everybody, you know, peace.